Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We are happy to have you with us. And we are, of course, sad for the reason that brings us together. While we wish we could be in person instead of on Zoom, we nonetheless want to warmly welcome you into our virtual living room. We hope that our time together tonight brings you a small measure of comfort as you continue to mourn during these challenging times. My name is Diane Halivni, Coordinator of Community Education at JCFS Chicago, and I will serve as our host this evening.
I told you, this thing about mourning.
If everyone would kindly mute so we can hear our presenters. Excuse me. As always, your well-being is very important to us. And we recognize that a gathering such as this may touch some painful feelings. And we encourage you to please take care of yourself, be kind and compassionate and gentle with yourself. You can turn your camera off if you wish. You can take a break from the program. However, you know your needs best. If during the program or after, consider reaching out to your network of support, whether it's a family member or a friend or a program sponsor or a counselor. And the staff at JCFS is also here for you tonight and in the future. So if you'd like to be in touch with Carol, our wonderful staff member who will be monitoring the chat, if you need to chat with her, with someone, please share your contact information, how you best would like to be reached, and Carol will be in touch. After our formal program, and I'll say this again in a minute if more people come on, but you're welcome to stay on at the end, and we'll have sort of a gentle ending to the evening if we need. We extend our heartfelt thanks and appreciation to Scott Bauer and the board of the Lori S. Bauer Foundation for Sudden Loss for their generous support of tonight's program. The foundation was established by Lori's friends and family in her honor to give help, healing, and hope to children and families that have suffered a sudden loss or crisis. Thank you very much for helping us to support those who are grieving. As you know, our plan for the evening includes some very special presenters. We will open the program with Dr. Beth Fishman, who will share a reflection on the uniqueness of grief for us. We welcome Gabby Spat, who will share her grief journey and how she shaped the Blue Dove Foundation. Following Gabby's reflections, Nina will discuss some manifestations of grief and how they impact us this season. We'll bring Beth back for a meditation practice on self-compassion, and we'll close the program with Cantor Scott Simon, who has some beautiful songs and words of wisdom to share with us on our grief journey. As I said, we have this optional gathering at the end. If you want to linger for a little bit, we look forward to saying hello and meeting you and sharing additional resources that we have. On the tech side, I think many of you know how to use Zoom at this point, but just remember, if you would like to see the slides opposite the speaker, we have our speakers spotlighted, and we are recording the program, but the only thing that's being recorded are the speakers and the slides, and we won't see the audience on the recording. And after the program, we will send out more resources, information about upcoming grief groups if you're interested, and especially if we could make a request that you will fill out our program evaluation. We take our evaluation process very seriously, and we're always looking to improve the programs that we offer. So please let us know what else you're looking for and share your feedback with us. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Tonight, we will learn more about our grief, And as the writer Helen Keller reminds us, we bereaved are not alone. We belong to the largest company in all the world, the company of those who have known suffering. We acknowledge that we are here for ourselves and we are here for one another. We hope that by the end of our time together, you will feel a bit more connected and held. Thank you again to Scott Bauer and the Lori S. Bauer Foundation for helping us build this beautiful support community. So we will begin, and we welcome Dr. Beth Fishman, Manager of Addiction Services at JCFS Chicago, to share some words of welcome and support.
Thank you, Diane. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Of course, you've come here to be part of a community with others who have lost a loved one to overdose. So that is the common denominator here. At the same time, though, we are a diverse group because some of you have lost a parent to overdose and others have lost a child. Some have lost a spouse and some have lost a sibling. Other family members have been lost to overdose, and for some of you, it was your friend. Because sadly, as we know, anybody can die of a drug overdose. Your loss may have been recent, and others, their loss was some time ago. In addition, we know that not everybody who dies of an overdose has a long history of drug use. So some among us may have had the sudden shock and horror and incomprehension of losing their loved one to overdose after their loved one's very first use of drugs. And then for others here, your loved one's use of drugs was a long-standing and well-known challenge, and those relationships can be very challenging, frightening, exhausting, a real roller coaster. But even so, we love them, nevertheless. We remember who they were before their drug use started, and we always knew that they were more than their struggles, always. Because love is love, and we mourn the loss of a loved one, no matter the circumstances. And together here tonight, we can face down myths and stigma and shame that can surround the loss of a loved one to overdose. And we can come together and say that all loss deserves to be recognized and respected, and that all mourners deserve and have the right to be open and acknowledged and supported in your grief. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Beth. I would just like to add that JCFS offers chaplaincy services, and you may want to contact us and ask to set up a time to speak with a chaplain. Talking and working with chaplains are not only when a loved one might be at an end of life stage, but really for any time in your life that you'd like to talk to someone, or if you're seeking spiritual guidance. And the contact person for that is our wonderful colleague, Carol, who would be happy to speak with you and connect you to one of our excellent community chaplains. We are very honored to have with us this evening, Gabby Spat, a treasured Jewish leader in the Atlanta Jewish community and who's nationally recognized as one of the founders of the Blue Dove Foundation. Sadly, Gabby's sister Sari died unexpectedly in September of 2017. Thank you, Gabby, for being with us tonight and for sharing yours and Sari's story.
Thank you, Diane and Beth and Cantor Simon and Marcia and everybody, who's a part of this evening and putting it together. It's a tough topic. for a lot of people. Grief, loss, substance misuse, recovery, they're topics that a lot of people don't love to talk about. And for a lot of people, they can be very hard to talk about. At the Blue Dove Foundation, we believe in talking about them. And from day one, my family and myself have always shared Sari's story. And it's a part of the Blue Dove Foundation. So the Blue Dove Foundation was founded to bring education, awareness, and outreach to mental health and substance misuse through a Jewish lens. It's a topic that is not necessarily new to the Jewish community. JFCS Chicago has been doing it for a long time from a clinical perspective. But what makes Blue Dove unique in the way that we do it is through Jewish faith, spirituality, culture, religion, fill in the word that speaks to you. And we've become a partner in the community. And this is just another example of a program and a conversation actually with JCFS Chicago to do and to bring the awareness and to bring the outreach together. And that's really what Blue Dove talks about. The idea of quieting the silence, it was actually the name of the first program that we ever hosted. It brought 200 plus people together to hear personal stories of Jewish individuals who had something to share, who wanted to share their story. And every time we do that, it opens the doors to others. It makes others feel that they're not alone. And so I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't share my own story. And I'm always honored to share it with anyone and everyone who wants to listen. And there's a lot of people who are a part of my family's story, including our own rabbi. And my sister, we grew up in a Jewish family with Jewish values, went to Hebrew school, we were bat mitzvahed, we did high school in Israel and Jewish team tours, et cetera, et cetera. We always had Judaism as a part of our life. And my sister in high school was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So a little bit sometimes later, this was back in the early 2000s. And she didn't really know what it was. You could talk to her and you could get one Sari or you might get another Sari, right? And so we kind of ended up not really sure what was going to be the reaction for something we said to her. And at different times, she would have a depressive episode and she kind of go back and forth. But she was functioning on her own. She went to college at the University of North Florida. She graduated with a master's in deaf education and English as a first language and was a teacher. And she cared so much about helping other people that's what she put her passion and her efforts into, and not necessarily always taking care of herself. And when people are struggling or sad or doing drugs, and of course the clinicians on the call can talk to a lot more about that, and they will later, we don't always see them struggling. And that was my sister. She was always a happy person when she was on a high, right? Then she could be set off and you didn't know what was going to happen. And that was her story. She always gave away her lunch to her students. She always packed 2 lunches. And her teachers, her peers, her boss, her colleagues, they knew a completely different Sari than her family knew. And that was really interesting for us to learn. And so that was Sari. And there was one night in September of 2017, Hurricane Katrina was ravishing Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and she lost power. She went over to my grandparents' house, who were alive. They were 90 at the time and 99. And that was her safe space, always, both of us. We just adored our grandparents. She brought her cat. She brought all the food in her freezer that was going to spoil for not having power. And she cooked them meals. My 99-year-old grandfather was helping her grade her students' papers. And she was really happy. I talked to her from Atlanta, and she was having a great time with, grandma and grandpa and being there and fixing their Netflix and this and the Wi-Fi, always there to help someone. And she got a phone call that night. And my grandma said all of a sudden her kind of mannerisms and her mood changed. And she left. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't say where she was going. There was a curfew. You weren't allowed to be on the roads. And my grandma calls her and she said, I'll be back in 10 minutes. She comes back 10 minutes later. She goes into the bathroom. This is about 11:30 at night. And, she's going to wash up to go to bed, my grandma thought. And after about 10 minutes, grandma knocked on the door. Zari, are you okay? What's going on? And no answer. And she knocked again and she opened the door and she found her laying on the counter with needles all around. And she immediately called 911. This is a 90-year-old woman who was walked through by the telephone operator to start CPR. And, she couldn't tell the operator what Zari had taken because she didn't really know. And, the paramedics arrive, they administer Narcan, a couple of rounds. They take her to the hospital, and it turns out she had heroin that was laced with fentanyl. And fentanyl was that same drug that the doctors actually put her on to induce a coma. And because she was only 30 years old, they enacted a protocol to cool the body and then heat the body back up, which they would not have done if it was somebody who was much older, because she had coded in the ambulance. The odds were she was brain dead already. My mom's a nurse at the hospital my sister was brought to, and called us. And, I got on a plane right away. And my mom is very clinical about all of this because she had been a nurse for 40 plus years. And, that was kind of the interesting piece of it. While it's our family and we always thought it could happen. And my sister, when she had lost one of her closest friends from growing up, admitted to my mother that she had had suicidal thoughts in the past. And to this day, we'll never really know, was this an accident? Or was this on purpose? Did she know the heroin was laced with fentanyl? She was one of 22 people in 24 hours in Fort Lauderdale who had passed away from the same heroin laced with fentanyl. And so when we talk about, these accidental overdoses and drugs, my family has this grief and will never truly have the closure. And our rabbi, Rabbi Michael Gold, he has been with my family our entire lives. He married my parents. He did my sister and my bar mitzvah. He had done some of our other grandparents' funerals. He buried my sister, and 3 months later, he married me. And has always been there with us. And that is not, I recognize, a relationship that everybody has with their rabbi. It's something that we have, and it's something that supported us. And if it wasn't him, we look at our community and our friends, and our family has always chosen to speak openly about this. At her funeral, there was standing room only. Almost 300 people appeared. We didn't know who everybody was. We were, really shocked to see that. And for us, it became this new story of Sari, almost like this other person that we didn't know. The school where she worked dedicated an art project after her, where the students put together different sign language letters, and they made an art hall for that. And so this grief that we have is more of almost, a sadness, because you had this young woman who was touching so many people's lives for the better, but didn't see it in herself, didn't have that confidence in herself, didn't feel comfortable, asking for help. And she was in and out of therapies over the year, and different therapists, and on one drug and on a different drug, and didn't like the way they felt. And, so there is medication management that was there that at times worked and at times didn't work. Our family is the kind of family that always wants to do something. I got involved here with the Blue Dove Foundation, and for 4.5 years, this has been my passion, sharing stories, bringing the topics to life in the community. My father, he worked with the Broward County Sheriff Department to do an undercover case and brought down 8 different drug dealers in the ring. It took longer to get her cell phone records released from the phone company to know who that drug dealer was that she went to meet than the undercover operation, I guess would be the word. And so that's, our family. We are people that have gone to therapies, that have gone to individual therapy, that have gone to family and group therapies. And the work that we do, it's a way of honoring Sari. And I think there's a few lessons to be learned, from my story, and everyone has a different story, and everyone has a different connection to faith and to our Jewish culture and to our Jewish spirituality that comes. But for us, we always talk about Sari. And to our family and friends, we expressed that to them. We didn't want them to talk behind our backs or talk to each other about us. We wanted them to talk to us about Sari and how we were feeling. And we made that clear from the beginning. And it definitely has helped us over the last 4 years. We always focus on reducing shame and stigma around mental illness, around recovery and addiction. And it's important for us that we're not moving on, we're moving forward. And my mother and I took the idea that we can get really mad and we can get really angry, but it's not going to bring Sari back. Tomorrow, we're going to feel really bad if we're really angry, and she's still not going to be here. And so it's a conscious effort at different times, throughout the year, around her birthday, around the day that she passed away. And we reminded her to move forward, not to move on. And for us, it's really about creating a space that's safe for the community. And when our community feels supported, we have a stronger Jewish community. Thank you all for allowing me to share and to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you, Gabby. At the end of our program and through our emails, we'll share with you more resources. There's an incredible book, several books actually, that Blue Dove has produced that Gabby's holding it up. Quieting the Silence is really an incredible resource to share with friends and family who may not understand personally your own journey, but it might shed some light on your own experiences through the sharing of those other stories. So Thank you again, Gabby. We will now hear from Nina Henry, an addiction specialist and mental health educator at JCFS Chicago, who will share some important and heartfelt ideas for us to consider as we mourn our loved ones during the winter season.
Thank you, Diane. And I also want to thank you, Gabby. Hearing your story helps others feel less alone. So as you look at this image, I can imagine that it may conjure some complicated feelings for you. Some feelings related to traumatic loss aren't so easily shared with others. And at the same time, we all experience grief in our own way. Each grief journey is unique. Experiencing the deep pain of loss is also typically very isolating. The sense of isolation is a core characteristic of grief. Suffering is a foundational part of life. We all suffer in various ways and at various times. So we are never alone in our suffering, although we certainly often feel that we are alone. Losing a loved one to the frightening, confusing, potentially guilt-ridden experience of overdose really intensifies that sense of isolation. And yet, even in this, we are not alone, because here we are tonight in community with others walking the same road. To be bereaved is, by definition, enduring suffering. As with most painful times, there's a very human tendency to want to escape pain, to turn away from it. We know, however, that turning away from painful feelings only intensifies them. Making the counterintuitive choice to turn toward painful feelings can allow your feelings to soften and flow more easily. Grief can often be experienced in a physical way, with maybe an emptiness in the pit of your stomach. It's not uncommon to be hypervigilant, jumping at the slightest noise, or feeling a general sense of unease. Maybe anxious feelings cause a tightening in our chest or labored breathing. Many people just feel so tired and fatigued, they can't even get out of bed. Perhaps it helps to know that these feelings are to be expected. Sleep is elusive in this complicated grief, and many emotions may interfere with restful sleep. After such a loss, many folks expect to feel sad or anxious, but then the presence and force of anger and rage can be a real surprise. After toiling so long to help a loved one, once that struggle is ended, often shame and guilt accompany the feelings of emancipation or even relief that surface. Sometimes people feel disembodied, like they're watching themselves move through life while disconnected from their lives. Or perhaps what you're feeling is just yearning for the loved one. Maybe that's the chief emotion. Sadness and depression may make it hard to think clearly, even to the point of waking up and wondering what day it is, or becoming confused as you walk down the grocery store aisles, like, why are you in that aisle? What are you supposed to choose from the shelves? Many folks linger in a disbelieving state. Did this really happen? Vivid dreams are common and may be a little troubling. Tearfulness can alternate with restlessness. It's easy to withdraw when we are in this level of emotional toil. It's hard to be with others when we're in this state of turmoil, this state of mind. I'd like now to share with you a poem by a woman named Leslie McBain. We chose this because we agreed that this really seemed to encapsulate all the feelings one might be feeling after loss from overdose. At first, nothing makes sense. You think he won't survive. Somewhere deep down, you know the reality. But on the surface, it is unbelievable, unbelievable. You may sense a small relief as now the worst imaginable has happened. There will be no more unrelenting, debilitating worry, but then there's guilt at the sense of relief. You sleep away the days, or you can't sleep. You question your God, your intelligence, your memory. You may lose your appetite or the will to even drink water. You feel exhausted all the time. You feel out of control, ungrounded, or you may wish for control over your environment. All these things, and sometimes all at once. The body needs permission to feel. These feelings may be so painful, the impulse may be to avoid these feelings. However, as I said earlier, experience tells us that avoiding these feelings will make them more painful. Make a special time to reflect. Similar to how we set aside time for the Sabbath, grieving deserves our time and our attention. We are tempted to cover up feelings or look for distractions, and that it's okay to take a break from our feelings with distracting activities at times. So yes, we want distractions, and yes, it's okay to seek those distractions, knowing that the journey of grief will continue. It is important to allow the journey to continue to flow. We should choose things that we know are healthy for us: exercise, nutritious meals, and connecting with friends and family. Ask for help from your loved ones, and help from your community. Engage in practices that support health physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Now I'd like to invite Beth Fishman to rejoin us. She's going to lead us in some compassionate meditation.
Thank you, Nina. So, how to endure such a loss? Dr. Kristen Neff is a psychologist, and she's pretty widely known for her work on self-compassion. And she has said, when you're in the trenches, do you want to be with an enemy or do you want to be with an ally? It seems to me that grieving the loss of a loved one to overdose in particular is definitely qualifies as being in the emotional trenches, and we can be our own ally. We can learn to be our own ally by learning to give ourselves the compassion that we need during a time of such profound loss. Dr. Neff teaches that there are 3 elements to self-compassion. The first is self-kindness, and by that she simply means that we are warm or understanding toward ourselves when we're suffering. The second element of self-compassion she teaches is common humanity, and by that she simply means that suffering is a part of life, as has been said before. Everyone suffers. It's just part of the human experience. It's not something that happens to any one of us alone, but that we share with everyone. And that the third element of self-compassion is mindfulness. And in this case, mindfulness means to be aware of what we're thinking and what we're feeling, to turn towards those thoughts and those feelings, and to allow them to just be as they are, to allow your thoughts to be as they are, allow your feelings to be as they are, and with no judgment at all. She's developed a self-compassion practice that includes a series of phrases that helps us remember these 3 elements of self-compassion. It's a short practice. It's only maybe 5 minutes long. It's easy to learn, and it's something that you can take with you so that you'll have it at the ready when you might need it. So let's look at these phrases together, and then I'll guide you through the practice. So as you see here before you on the screen, the first phrase is, this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion that I need. So to join me in this self-compassion practice, if you would simply settle down into your body, feel yourself settling down and being supported by the chair that you're sitting on or the bed that you may be sitting or lying on. Feel the ground, the earth itself supporting you. And take a moment to notice your breathing, not to change your breath in any way, but just to notice the natural rhythm of your own breath. And when you're ready, either gently close your eyes or hold a soft gaze on the floor a few feet in front of you. Now, the first phrase to hold in your mind is, this is a moment of suffering. Here we're bringing our awareness really gently to the fact that suffering is in fact present. And I would invite you to use language that really feels natural to you. It could be something like, this is really hard right now, or I'm really struggling. In this way, we're turning toward the suffering, we're acknowledging it, naming it, no judgment, just allowing it to be so that, as Nina said, it can soften and it can flow. This is a moment of suffering. The next phrase to hold in your mind is that suffering is a part of life. Here, again, we're reminding ourselves of our common humanity, that we're not alone, because we are among a sea of others, of everyone, because suffering is a part of being human. Suffering is a part of life. Here again, you can use language that feels very natural for you. It may be something like, it's normal to feel this way, or anyone would feel this way in a similar situation. You might say, it's okay to struggle, because everyone struggles sometimes. I'm not the only one going through this. The degree of your suffering may be different from others. The flavor of your suffering may be different from others. But suffering is simply a part of being human. So it's okay to struggle. Suffering is a normal part of life. And then lastly, we hold in our mind the phrase, may I be kind to myself in this moment, or may I give myself the compassion that I need. And to support bringing kindness to yourself, if you'd like, you can hold your hands over your heart or over another part of your body that feels soothing or comforting. And in that way, you can feel the warmth of kindness and compassion flowing through your hands and into your body. May I be kind to myself in this moment. And here again, use any language that works for you. You might use phrases that you would say to a friend when they're struggling. I'm here for you. I care about you. Anything that feels like it's a natural way for you to express your deep wish to be supported in this moment of suffering. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion that I need. And now to come out of the practice, just notice how your body is feeling right now. You might feel your hands or your shoulders. You might become aware of the natural rhythm of your breathing again. Allow any sensations that you find in your body to simply be there. Just notice. Allow the sensations to be there. Allow yourself to be however you are in this moment. And then when you're ready, if your eyes were closed, please open your eyes again. Thank you. Thank you for doing this practice with me. And I hope that it will serve you in your times of need as you continue on this journey.
Thank you very much, Beth, for this grounding practice, which is a lovely segue to welcoming Cantor Scott Simon from Temple High in Long Grove. He has worked as a songwriter, band leader, guitar teacher, cantor for decades. Thank you for helping us move us to the closing part of our program with some meaningful melodies and prayers for healing.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you everyone who has held our hands and shared from their hearts this evening. Beth, Nina, and Gabby, thank you all so much for how deeply you touched my heart and from speaking from your hearts. What is on the screen in front of us is a product
Cantor, we can't hear you. Are you frozen? That would make me sad. Are other people hearing the Cantor? No. Oh boy. I think he knows and he'll pop right back on. He's such an expert in doing these things, and we can rehearse and rehearse. And in the 1 minute we need to hear his song and his prayers, we hope the Cantor will return with us in just a moment. But while we're waiting for him, I will just mention the role of the Misha Berach, and I know the Cantor, when he'll come back on, he'll talk about it. In the liturgy and Jewish practice, there's always a balance between asking things from God, if that's your way, inviting your spiritual self to be open to communicating with God, and for asking for prayers of healing and blessing for those who are suffering. So in one of the wonderful sets of programs that Blue Dove is able to produce, reach out, do tremendous outreach across the country, they have these wonderful workshops where the Misha Berach prayer is part of what everyone gets to go through, study a text, study the original kinds of Misha Berachs, and then also be able to write their own. So I encourage you, if that's something that you may wish to do, I invite you to do that. And you can be in touch with us and our friends at Blue Dove who run programs around this, and we can think about how to do that together. So I'm just moving my screen to full screen for a second to see if we have the Cantor back. No. Oh my goodness, I'm so sad. I think what we will do then is I will read this beautiful, beautiful text, and hopefully the Cantor will come back on, because I don't think you want me to sing. And we're holding all of you in our hearts as we read this. To the one who blessed our ancestors and the one who blesses all beings here on this earth, bless all those who are suffering the grief of someone they loved. May they find solace in their memory, and may their love find a resting place in their hearts. Bless all those who are struggling with the death of someone with whom they had a difficult relationship. May they find compassion for themselves and renewal of spirit. May they have patience and strength as grief can come in waves throughout our lives. May they find the courage to share their grief with others, no matter how many years have gone by. While they can be shattered by loss, they can be healed by love from others. Sacred One, help them find ways to open their hearts to love and to hope. Bless all those who are grieving, for it is an honor to have lived. Make both life and death a blessing. And I welcome back the Cantor. Oh no.
I'm here.
Oh, so happy to see you.
I
Okay.
have no idea what happened.
There are
Just stopped.
divine powers we won't try and explain, but I did review a little bit of the Mishaberach and I just read it. So let us know how you want to proceed.
Let's just proceed with some songs, I suppose, with some intentions with music. I wrote this piece, which is called Lech Lecha, which is based on Genesis chapter 12, verse 1, from the Parsha Lech Lecha. To help our congregation on the High Holy Days, when so many of our texts are healing texts and texts that motivate us to do personal work. And I wrote this setting of a Lech Lecha to help those who might be wondering where in this new year or at this time in their life they need to move forward to. And for them to contemplate that change is okay, and that growth is necessary, and that that it's a historical precedent for us of our ancestors, and that God is constantly in a state of change as well, and that God's change energy and healing energy is there for us to tap into, and that God calls to us. So sorry about that. Can you hear my guitar? Lech lecha me'artzecha u'mimoladecha. In time you'll change your heart. Change the way you look at things. Change the way you feel. Change the way you value what you think is real. Each new year God calls to us in whispers great and small. Embrace life's many journeys. There's no time to stall. You can plan and God won't laugh. God is glad to watch you grow. God too is constant change, beyond what we can know. All souls are connected beyond our thinking minds. L'dor v'dor b'kesher, to generations beyond time. Lech lecha me'artzecha u'mimoladecha. Life will change your heart, change the way you look at things, change the way you feel, change the way you value what you think is real. Each new year God calls to us in whispers of the heart. Life is made of journeys. Now's the time to start. You can plan and God won't laugh. God is glad to watch you grow. God too is constant change beyond what we can know. All souls are connected beyond our thinking minds. We grow and change together in rhythms beyond time. Laklaka me'artzecha u'mimoladecha. In time you'll change your heart. Change the way you look at things. Change the way you feel. Change the way you value what you think is real. Each new year God calls to us in whispers great and small. Embrace life's many journeys. There's no time to stop.
Thank you so much, Cantor Simon.
Thank you. I was really getting into the Misha Barak text that Diane read to all of you, and that was up on the screen. That was written by, I just had it, maybe I dropped it in the panic. That was written by Nancy Kreisman in January of last year, and it really spoke to me. And you know, a Misha Barak text is a text. It's called that because it starts with the words Misha Barak, which means may the one who blesses, and is usually followed by a little bit of a formula. We say, may the God who blessed Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless those who we need and those we want a blessing for. And though it is a very popular and well-known prayer prescription that's usually read at public moments, especially Torah services, it's not actually, there's no hard and fast rules about Misha Barak. So it leaves us a lot of freedom to interpret when and how we can use one at the bedside of a loved one, just in our hearts for someone that's suffering, whether it's mental or physical pain of some kind or challenge. And so I really found a lot of meaning in the Misha Barak texts that were on the Blue Dove site, and there's a number of them for you to look at, so I recommend them. Here's my interpretation of the text. Sacred One, hear my heart. A part of it's been stolen. I wail broken in the dark. Please soothe and help my trembling voice to sing. I've been crying for so long. Give me strength to carry on. And though it's hopeless to pretend, let me share and love again. Renew my spirit to ascend and feel love again, with missing pieces, but enough to love again. Sacred One, have my back. Defend me on this mission as I try to fix this crack. Help me heal, to laugh and then to smile. Give me strength to love myself. Please acquit me at this trial. And though it's hopeless to ascend, to pretend, help me share and laugh again. Renew my spirit to ascend and feel love again, with missing pieces, but with enough to love again. Misha Berak, please Allah, grant me solace in my memories. Bless my life with grace right now. Let your chesed lighten me. Remove the darkness from my eyes so I can see. And though it's hopeless to pretend, let me share my love again. Renew my spirit to ascend and feel love again, with missing pieces, but enough to love again. Missing pieces, but with enough to love again. Healing pieces, but with enough to love again.
Thank you, Cantor.
Thanks, Diane.
It was
And
really
everyone.
beautiful. That's modern Midrash at its best.
Thank you.
We want to thank everyone for being with us tonight, to thank our esteemed presenters, Gabby Spat, Beth Fishman, Nina Henry, Scott Simon, and to the Lori S. Bauer Foundation for Sudden Loss for supporting our evening's program. We extend a special thank you to our colleagues behind the scenes, Andrea Jacobs, Ann Luban, and Marcia Reynes. And Marcia's going to come on the program and be with us for a few minutes as we linger. And the Cantor is going to send us off into our evenings with some blessings of peace. And we wish that for all of you as well. And know that JCFS is here with you on your journey. And we will be sending out additional resources and ways to connect with us, with the Blue Dove Foundation, with some other music and liturgy that we hope will be sources of healing for you on your grief journey. We wish you a Lila Tov good evening, and Cantor, you'll take us out, and Marcia's going to come on and stay and hang out with us a little bit if you like.
Shalom. 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 Aleinu. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace Timbroma, Ose Shalom, Timbroma, Uyase, Uyase, Uyase Shalom, Uyase, Uyase, Uyase Shalom, Uyase, Uyase, Uyase Shalom.